And on MS-13, for those who are not aware, I mean, they are the worst of the worst, brutal killers, drug pushers, and today, the New York Post is reporting that MS-13 members have been accused of sex trafficking underage girls and molesting children. So I'd call them subhuman as well. Now, let's go to the border crisis. Texas continues to do the job that the Biden administration should be doing, and they've just had a big win in the US Supreme Court, which has voted to let Texas state law enforcement arrest people suspected of illegally crossing the border. This is a big blow to the Biden administration who tried to block it. I don't understand here, Ami, why they want to stop Texas trying to solve a problem that they created. This is a gift for the Biden White House.
Yeah, of course. Look, anytime the more immigration gets stopped, right, or legal immigration gets stopped in the country, this is good for Biden, of course, perversely. But he is not smart enough to realize that. Yeah, this was actually very, very unexpected because prior courts in the past have held the states do not have a right to police the borders. That falls within the federal jurisdiction according to the Constitution. Now, look, I am a constitutionalist. I am a strict constructionalist. I don't like activist courts on either side, on the right or on the left. So, yes, while, of course, this was something that is going to be very helpful to stop this illegal flow coming to our country. And they use this novel claim of it was an invasion, and there is an invasion. The states do have a right to fight back against it. But look, I don't like judicial activism on either side. I do want it to follow the intent of the founders and the Constitution. And prior courts did find in favor of the federal government. Now, having said that, this really is a game changer because this will allow the state of Texas to arrest these people and then deport them. They'll actually have a choice. They can either go into the criminal court justice system and they'll be arrested and held there until their court case, or they can be deported. This is absolutely a game changer. This will be a major deterrent, and it was very, very unexpected. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's not over yet. It's going to be interesting how this plays out going forward.
Now, let's talk about Letitia James, New York's Attorney General. She's trying to seize Donald Trump's assets in her latest attempt to use the justice system or misuse the justice system to bankrupt Donald Trump and frustrate his efforts to become president again. Kevin O'Leary is the latest high-profile businessman to speak out about this unprecedented abuse of power.
All of that is being shaken to the core here. The concept of seizing assets in 30 days on a bond number that's never been issued. No insurance bond company's ever issued anything near this, so there was no chance it was going to happen. And only giving 30 days notice and time, that's a really bad message. And I think New Yorkers should think well past Trump. Whether he's president or not, or whether this attorney general is gone in 4 years or not, it's irrelevant. This is case setting against the American brand.
But, Ami, can New Yorkers see past Trump? They seem to be rationalising all sorts of madness in order to get Trump.
Yeah, look, there's a whole, as we know, bunch of cases against Trump, and they're arranged for the meritorious, like the documents case. In Florida, the totally specious, like this case we see here. And this, of course, is the most specious of all the specious cases against Trump. There were no claimants who were claiming damage. None of the banks that were defrauded came forward to sue him because they got all their money back. This whole thing was hinging on him inflating his value of his buildings, which, by the way, in the rider itself of the contract, it says, do not rely on these findings. Do the due diligence yourselves. It's actually in the contract themselves. This is complete and total lawfare. This is, look, there has been some, and there will continue to be capital flight from New York because what investors don't like is uncertainty. And what this is creates capital uncertainty when they say, hey, look, I may be a Republican. Will Letitia James, that clown car, that clown show, of a attorney general come after me because she doesn't like my politics? Well, the standard has been set. He went after Donald Trump for purely political purposes. She didn't bring it in criminal court. She brought it in civil court because the bar is too high on criminal court. They knew they couldn't get above it. They did it in civil court where they had a judge who was very political, very activist, who in fact put Mar-a-Lago, which I drove by a few days ago, this massive complex, he put it at $20 million. If it's $20 million, Rita, you and I can come together and buy it together, okay? If it's worth $20 million.
Yes.
But this is a total legal lawfare. It is scary, not just for the president, which will it might bankrupt him because he cannot come up with a bond, right? You can't put up your real estate holdings to come with a bond. You need the cash. Nobody has that kind of cash. This is going to hamper him politically, and that was the entire point. And hats off to Letitia James. She accomplished exactly what she wanted.
Now, Donald Trump is suing ABC News George Stephanopoulos for defamation over this interview with South Carolina Republican Nancy Mace. Here is George trying to shame a rape victim.
I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me about another potential rape victim. I'm not gonna do that.
It's actually not about shaming you. It's a question about Donald Trump.
No, you are shaming
You've
me.
endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Right.
Donald Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury.
Now, Trump's attorney has stated that these statements were and remain false and were made by defendant Stephanopoulos with actual malice or with a reckless disregard for the truth, given that the defendant, Stephanopoulos, knows that these statements are patently and demonstrably false. Army, this is interesting. If Trump's going to be spending half the campaign in court, he might as well start engaging in a little lawfare himself.
Yeah, might as well go on offense. You know, what the hell? Got nothing to lose. Look, it's crazy to me that Stephanopoulos, who is considered an unbiased journalist, when he was the campaign manager, the campaign architect for a president, a Democratic president. I mean, it's like if Steve Bannon or Karl Rove was taken on saying, you are now an independent journalist. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. But that interview he did with Nancy Mace was so gross. It was so gross. You know what? Shame on him. This is a stain on his legacy to go after a woman and try to use her rape as a political advantage in trying to defame the president. And that's what he did. Look, he knows the difference between rape and sexual assault. Not that, look, again, nothing about this is good, right? I mean, yes, the fact that the former president was found guilty of sexual assault, that ain't good. Let's be honest about this. But there is a significant difference between rape and sexual assault. I don't want to go into the details here, but the truth is he used it. He knew it. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. They have a lot of people working at ABC who vet this stuff. And look, I'm not a fan of lawfare. I don't like it. I don't want it. But when one side uses it as a weapon, well, that opens the door for the other side. Not a fan of it, but that's what's going to happen. Okay, what goes around comes around. This is an example of that.
And he knows very well the difference between civil and criminal cases. And we're not talking here about a criminal case of anyone being found guilty of any sort of assault. So he knew precisely what he was doing. And given that he used to work for Bill Clinton, the nerve of him to even bring up this issue is something else. But Nancy Mace, I think, handled that beautifully. She's a very strong woman indeed. Armie Horowitz, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.